Welcome back to our second shiur on Rabbi Haim Vital. The shiur is titled The Root Soul of Rabbi Haim Vital, as was told him piece by piece, word by word by the Ari Kadosh, the Hillula Ari Kadosh, and coupled with Musar, Haskel, and words from the Zohar Kadosh. Lichvod Hillula Rabbi Haim Vital. And what was his reincarnations that he was zocheh to be mechaber the Etz Hayim, and really all Torah Harashash is only because of the Etz Hayim which Rabbi Haim Vital wrote Zuchuto Yagen Aleinu, and this year is his 400th anniversary of his passing. Hillula. May Hashem speed up the process of the gilgulim. And the reason why it's important to know his Shorsh Neshama, for first of all, as we said in our first shiur, that he was supposed to be Mashiach ben Yosef, Rabbi Chaim Vital. And this is not something that, this is not something that I'm making up, chas v'shalom. But there are people that are worthy, if they wanted to, if they could have reached a level of Chayayin Yichida. It's not something that's impossible. And it has nothing to do with how many Averot and Mitzvot you do. It has nothing to do with that. Because we find that there were 5 men who didn't sin. Yishai, Amram, Benyamin, Kalev, Ben David, some say Levi. And they never reached Chayayin Yichida, but they never made an Avera. That means that to reach Chayayin Yichida, which is, if you see my video on what is the sign of a real Mashiach, reaching Chayayin Yichida doesn't necessarily mean you did no Avera. It just means that you reach the highest level you could be, and sometimes that means you have to fall. Sometimes that means you have to fall to reach higher heights. And we see by Rabbi Haim Vital that he did fall a couple of times. For 2.5 years he was mevatel, he didn't learn Torah in his capacity, he was learning alchemy. That time was a very popular thing. Pardon me. And learning about his Shorsh Neshama could shed light on us, on ours. Because it's not a wonder that you're hearing this. It has to be that you're connected to this. So Bezrat Hashem Yitbarach, we will learn about his Shorsh Neshama, and once again, chas v'shalom, chas v'shalom, chas v'shalom. You should not think that I myself know these things. The only reason I'm saying this is because I've had people email me and text me before. I do not know these things. Halavai, I should know my own. But we can use this to maybe reach that level one day. Maybe. And the most important thing I said in my previous shiur is Chazara b'tshuva, to be Chazer b'tshuva from all the Averot. But to have a right hadracha, right direction. Right direction. And it has nothing to do with the coming of Mashiach. Mashiach could come today, it will be irrelevant. You still have to work on yourself. Don't think when Mashiach comes, another very big falsehood, Mashiach comes, boom, shaka boom, everything is great, everything is good, everything is dandy, and that's it, we're all elevated. Shtus v'hevel. Shtuyot v'havalim. Shtuyot v'havalim. We still got to work on ourselves. There's no free lunch. We have to make ourselves better. And that will bring us to the greatest revelation for ourselves. Wouldn't you want to know why you came to this world? Wouldn't you know what's your tikkun? Don't you want to know what's your tikkun? Don't you want to know? We see Rabbi Haim Vital was begging every day from Hashem to know what's his hasaga, what's his place in Olam Haba, why? He wants to know why. He wants to know about himself. And even though he found answers from people, he would ask again, Goralot, Lechashim, Ari Kadosh, his own Rebbe. And Baruch Hashem, he was zocheh to know, and he reached the highest level of knowing more than anyone in every previous generation. And Tehilot lekel Yitbarach. I've been wanting to tell this shiur for such a long time, and it came out like this. But this is a ladder. This is a step in the ladder to fly. To fly in Avodat Hashem. We need to burn in Avodat Hashem, as the Admor Piacenza says in Chovat HaTalmidim. We need to burn by Avodat Hashem, and it's hard. It's hard when you don't have a minyan, you're not in shul, you're not in yeshiva. It's hard to burn because we give each other strength. With Baruch Hashem, as the Pele Yoetz says, our Sfarim today could be our power. So what was Rabbi Haim Vital's Shorshei Neshama? What was his root soul that he was so great? We mentioned that he was Rabbi Akiva. But let's learn the things deep inside. Now, obviously, I'm not going to go into the deep things because a lot of things are different. You have to have a lot of introductions, learned a lot of introductions in the Etz Hayim, Otrot Hayim, Shar Gilgulim. Now, when I say you had to have a little introduction, a person who hasn't learned at least the whole Otrot Hayim, or at least a good chunk of the Etz Hayim, can never truly understand Shar Gilgulim. Never. It's impossible. You might think you understand, but you will never understand. Just like a person who wants to have a doctorate degree, he first has to go to kindergarten, then to first grade, then to second grade, third, fourth, fifth, high school. After he goes to high school, he goes to undergrad. From undergrad, he goes to graduate school. From graduate school, he has to then do his residency. Then he needs fellowship. I don't know, all these kind of stuff. Don't think, I woke up from my bed this morning and suddenly I'm a mikubal. Chas v'shalom. I'm not saying you should stop learning. I'm saying you should have right hadracha, right direction. Don't just wake up from the dead and suddenly you're a mikubal. As we see that a lot of people did like that and they went off the derech. Chas v'shalom. You have to have right hadracha. And midot. Midot is the main thing. I mean, if we're already talking about that Rabbi Haim Vital and his Shorsh Neshama, it's worthwhile to mention that he has an amazing Musar book called Sha'arei Kedusha. A person who doesn't know that book by heart, or at least knows how to say a nice summary of it by heart, should have no deal inside. Should not eat from the tree of life. First, he has to be holy. Sha'arei Kedusha. People ask me, how do I get into this? I made a mistake once of starting straight from Otrot Hayim with my students. A couple of them I had to let go of. But if I would have made the right decisions back then, I would have started from Sha'arei Kedusha. And another book that I suggest from another contemporary of Chaim Vital, which this book makes you burn for Avodat Hashem, makes you burn, is the author of the famous song Yedid Nefesh, Rabbi Elazar Eskari. It's called Sefer Charedim. It's one of the greatest books in the history of the world. It will just make you burn for Avodat Hashem. That's how we have to start. You can't just put the pot on the stove. You got to turn it on. You might have the right ingredients. You might be smart. You might be charismatic. But if you don't have the fire, you're not gonna cook. And that's the secret. Somebody's got to turn on your fire. That's your Rebbe. And I always stress this enough, that your Rebbe is the most important thing. It's so important. Because you should know. That I mentioned in my last year about Chaim Vital, that Rav Yosef Dilarina, who did such a bad thing, he brought down angels and he went off the derech. His Rebbe was Rabbi Avram Abulafia. And Rabbi Avram Abulafia threw him out. He threw him out. And that's how he got off the derech. And Yoshka, who made himself the Mashiach, of course he was nothing more than a charlatan, a lie, a fake. And because of him, we have suffered the greatest, the Jewish people have suffered more from him than any nation in the world. from the Catholic Church, from the Protestant church, from the evangelical churches. I shouldn't even say their names. It's tum'ah. It's idol worship, total idol worship. No matter what they say, what they do, you could believe in God from today to tomorrow, you still idol worship. And he was a student of Yehoshua ben Prachia, not even Rabbi Yehoshua. He was so high level, he wasn't even considered a Rebbe. He was just Yehoshua ben Prachia. He kicked him out of yeshiva, and without a Rebbe, he went off the derech. And there was great people, great German journalist. I forget his name. He was a student of the Khatam Sofer, and he kicked him out. When he kicked him out, he went off the derech. So I can't stress this enough. You need hadracha. Having a book is good enough for information, but you need hadracha. And a true Rebbe, how do you know if a Rebbe is a Rebbe? It's not somebody that you could learn, that you ask questions to. That's a Sholom Meishiv. That's a Rav. A Rebbe is somebody you have a relationship with. We just had the yahrzeit of Yehoshua ben Nun, the great Yehoshua ben Nun who spoke to Moses, who learned Torah from Moshe Rabbeinu, who brought the Jews into Eretz Israel, who was the Yesod of Adam HaRishon. His neshama came from the ha'ara of the Yesod of Adam HaRishon. He overcame the spies. Yehoshua ben Nun opened up the Jordan. He brought down Jericho. And Yehoshua ben Nun, what was his greatest attribute? Umeshareto, Yehoshua ben Nun, na'ar lo yamish mitoch ha'ohel. He was a lad. He would not move from the tent. So important, so important. And because I see, Baruch Hashem, this limud is mitpashet, it's spreading. But when I see somebody that knows this limud, he knows the information, but he's mitga'e belimud. He hurts other people with this limud. He's not b'derech yeshara, and almost 99.9% of the time it's because he doesn't have a Rebbe. Doesn't have a Rebbe. And all what Rabbi Haim Vital achieved is because of his Rebbe, the Ari Kadosh. And all the other Mekubalim that we don't learn them today, or mainstream Mekubalim don't learn them, is because they don't have a Rebbe and student. It kind of fizzled out. Not for lack of trying, obviously. For example, one day we will give a shiur on the Kabbalah of the Chachmei Ashkenaz, Rabbi Elazar Migarmiza, one of my favorite Rishonim, Bala Rokeach. I will teach you from where they got their Masoret. Today, almost nobody learns from their thing, except for the people who like to research and know about it. We know from the book Shema Gilgulim of the Chida Kadosh that the Rashi was a giant in the secrets of the Torah, as he writes himself in his Perush and Gemara, that he knew the Ayin Bet Shemot and Mem Bet Shemot. It's not a chidush. You could open up the book Shem HaGedolim of the Maran Achida, and he writes over there on Rashi that he came to a dream to the Rashbam, his eldest grandson, and he told him, now that I passed away, I know you're worthy, and I could teach you Shemot HaKodesh. And there was another rabbi of Balei HaTosfot, Rabbi Yaakov Mimorish, the Baal Shut Mina Shamayim, that he would ask questions from Shamayim, they would answer him. B'Chizyon Laila. We have a whole book, and the Ra'avad is Machshev him Torah. Look at what he says about him under Rabbi Yaakov HaChasid in Shema Gedolim. So let's continue and learn about Rabbi Haim Vital. And I had to tell you this introduction. This introduction I told you was worth $1 million if you in Avodat Hashem. And now we could start and take a peek into the Shorish Neshama of Rabbi Haim Vital. So he writes over here, B'yom Rosh Chodesh Adar. It was Rosh Chodesh Adar. The year was 5,331. Rabbi Haim Vital was, remember, he was born 5,301. So over here he's 30 years old. The Ari tells Rabbi Haim Vital, when I was in Egypt, I started to reach my hasaga, my special power in hitlahavut avodat Hashem. It's called hasaga, when you reach something. And they told me, Eliyahu Navi told him, that I should move to the city of Tzfat and there will be a boy there, Chaim, and to teach him Torah. And he told me that I only came to live in Tzfat. That means he wouldn't have moved from Egypt. He would have stayed in Egypt. But the only reason he came to Tzfat was to teach him Torah, Rabbi Haim Vital. And that he didn't come in a reincarnation only to teach him Torah. That means you could come to a reincarnation just to teach somebody Torah. It's a possibility. And he also told me that I should not teach anyone else Torah. And we see that's one of the reasons why the Ari Reincarnations died an early death. Because Rabbi Haim Vital, as he called himself a Chassid Shoteh, caused other people to come in to learn. And that caused machloket. And the machloket was one of the two reasons why the Ari Reincarnations passed away. Another reason was because he revealed a secret he wasn't supposed to reveal in Sha'ar Mochin de Katnut. And he told Rabbi Haim Vital that his neshama was higher than the neshama of a couple of great angels. Unbelievable. And that I could, with my actions, go higher than the firmament called Aravot, which is the seventh firmament. There are 7 firmaments. If you look in Maseket Chagiga, Daf Yud Bet Amud Bet, and in Zohar, Chelek Bet, Parashat Shemot, it writes over there that he could go higher than the world of, that you could go higher than the world of Asiyah. And the 7th firmament in the world of Asiyah is Aravot. And I asked him, Mi hi nishmati. Who is my neshama? Not what is my neshama, but who is my neshama. Velo ratza levar, he didn't want to tell me all the details, but he only told me that at first I was look who he was, Rabotai, look who he was. Anybody who knows halacha, psak halacha will hear this, he will, unbelievable. That he was the Baal Magid Mishneh. The foremost commentary on the Rambam is the Magid Mishneh, Rabbi Vidal di Tolsha from Toulouse, Spain. Rabbi Vidal di Tolsha, the Magid Mishnah, was the friend of the Ran, Rabbeinu Nisim. A Rishon, Rabbi Haim Vital was the gilgul of a Rishon. And that's why my last name Vital sounds like his name Vidal. So we see we have a lot of connections with our past reincarnations. And after he passed away, I became a man called Rabbi Yoshua Suriano. I came back as Rabbi Yoshua Suriano. And Vuaya Adam Ashir, and he was very rich. Vizaken, he lived a very old life. Ubal Tzlaka, very rich. And every day he would go to shul, he wouldn't miss a day. And then I came back in a gilgul as a boy named Avraham, and I died at the age of 14. And now I am a man called Chaim. Remember, the Ari is only telling Rabbi Haim Vital in short. Really, this paragraph he blows up during the next 50 pages. So at first he tells him that you were the Magid Mishneh, Rabbi Vidal di Toulouse. Then you were a man called Rabbi Yoshua Suriano that used to go to shul day and night, and he would never miss Tfilah B'minyan, and he was a Baal Tzedakah. And then he was a boy named Avraham that died before the age of 20, Karet. And then he was a man, I came back in this reincarnation as me, Chaim. And he says, the reason that I came back, the Magid Mishneh, on the Rambam, this is a Rambam over here. This is the Rambam. The foremost commentary on Maimonides, one of the greatest compilations of Jewish law, if not the greatest, is the Magid Mishneh. The reason the Magid Mishneh came back as a Gilgul, what could a Rishon be missing? Who the Rishonim were? Ki lo haiti mamin b'chokhmat haZohar, because the Magid Mishneh didn't believe in the Zohar HaKadosh. He was into philosophy and he didn't believe in the Zohar HaKadosh. So what do we see from here? And he says over here specifically that it was the Magid Mishneh. We see from here that a person who doesn't believe in the authenticity of the secrets of the Torah, the Ari HaKadosh says he has to come back in a Gilgul. The main point where I came in this reincarnation, so right away the Ari tells him, your main reason for coming into this reincarnation is to learn, and to not to learn just, to be osek, as the Ashkenazim say every morning. La'asok b'Torah, to delve, too deep, to be mitasek in the Torah. Which Torah? Chokhmat haZohar. And he says, when I was the Magid Mishneh, when I was the great Magid Mishneh, Rabbi Vidal, in my first reincarnation, I was gadol v'charif. I was amazingly sharp mind. And that's why in this reincarnation, I don't like learning in a very sharp way anymore. Because he already fulfilled his tikkun in his first reincarnation. And he says, all that I told you were Rabbi Vidal, the Magid Mishnah, then Rabbi Yoshua Soriano, then Avraham, now you, it's only which part of your neshama? Your nefesh. We know you have 5 parts of your soul. Nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, yichida. All those reincarnations that I said, that's only his nefesh. Imagine his ruach, neshama, chaya, yichida. And he also told me, when I was 13 years old, when Rabbi Haim Vital was 13 years old, he already had in him the soul of a great tzaddik called Rabbi Elazar ben Arach. Anyone who knows Pirkei Avot, what do we say about Rabbi Elazar ben Arach? If all the rabbis in the time of the Mishnah were in one side of a moaznaim, how do you say a moaznaim? A scale, and he would put Rabbi Elazar ben Arach on the other side, he would outweigh all of them. When Rabbi Haim Vital was 13 years old, he had in him the soul of Rabbi Elazar ben Arach, helping him, because that tzaddik could come inside of you and help you in Avodat Hashem. When we be zocheh, amen. The student of Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. When I was 20 years old, I had in me the soul of Rabbi Elazar ben Shamoa, one of the 10 martyrs. The Rebbe of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. The Rebbe of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Rabbi Elazar ben Shamoa, one of the 5 students of Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Elazar ben Shamoa, he's in a spiritually a higher level than Rabbi Elazar ben Arach, because he was one of the 10 martyrs. And now that I'm 29 years old, the soul of Rabbi Akiva is hovering around me and wants to come inside of me too. So could you imagine Rabbi Haim Vital? First of all, he's the gilgul of Arishon. Second of all, he has inside of him the souls of 3 Tanaim. Rabbi Elazar ben Arach, Rabbi Elazar ben Shamoa, and Rabbi Akiva wants to go inside of him. Now you could understand now every single Jew probably has this. Don't just think it's Rabbi Haim Vital. You probably have this too, Bezrat Hashem Yitbarach. If you don't do shtuyot, you're not pogem your brit, you don't waste your time, you always think of Hashem. Yes. You learn Torah. Where do you think that sudden burst comes into you to be mitlahev in Avodat Hashem? It comes from these tzaddikim. They're coming to help you. It's a pashut be'einai. And he continues over here that he was one day praying by the grave of the great Amorah Rabbi Anai, the Rebbe of Rabbi Yochanan of the Gemara. And while he was praying over there, the Ari heard the voice of Rabbi Anai from the grave through the special yichudim that he did. And this is not something that's impossible to do in our generation. I know of one tzaddik, he's 102 years old. I heard a story from his student that he did this too, and he heard the Or HaChaim HaKadosh speak to him. It says, tell Chaim Vital, the Ari, he's telling the Ari to tell Chaim Vital that he should be very careful. Look what Rabbi Anai is telling Ari to Rabbi Chaim Vital. What Avera he should be careful from? Richilut, slander, lashon hara, gossip, umin sicha betela, talking for no reason. V'yishafel ruach me'od, he should always put himself down. That means shafel ruach means don't have ga'ava. And I will be with him everywhere he goes. That means Rabbi Haim Vital was also zocheh for the ibur neshama of Rabbi Anai. Unbelievable. V'gam amarli, and the Ari HaKadosh also told Rav Chaim Vital, Ki nafshi yesh la shayachut benafsho shel Moshe Rabbeinu. My soul has a shayachut, it has a connection to the soul of Moshe Rabbeinu. Because bo klulim kol neshama tzadikim, all the souls of tzadikim are included in the soul of Moshe Rabbeinu. How do we know that? It's a Gemara. The Gemara says that whenever there was a Talmid Chacham in the Gemara, in Amora, that it would say a nice Chiddush, the Gemara says, Moshe Shapir Ka'amar, Moses, you said well. So the Mekubalim ask, his name is not Moses, it's Rabbi Chaya, it's Rabbi Abba. Why calling him Moses? Because the soul of Moses is every Talmid Chacham is a spark of Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu. And which part of my soul specifically is connected to Moshe Rabbeinu? Nafshi, your nefesh, the lowest part. Imagine what his ruach neshama chayachida is. And he says that your soul, that is part of Moshe Rabbeinu, that means your soul is made out of many sparks, and the spark that is connected to Moses came inside a gilgul, believe it or not, in Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, who saved all of Torah Jewry in the destruction of the second temple. And then it came inside Rabbi Akiva. And then it came into more gilgulim, until it went inside one of the redactors of the Talmud, Abaye, the Heilige Abaye, We know that the Gemara is also called Havayot Abaye Verava, and then it came inside me. And this is the secret why there are three men, the Gemara says, which Gemara, it's not inside the Gemara, it's actually inside the Sifri of Devarim. There are three men that lived for 120 years old, and they each had a separation in the first 40, middle 40, and last 40. Moshe Rabbeinu, Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Moshe Rabbeinu, 40 years old, he lived in the house of Pharaoh, 40 in Midian, and 40 years he was leader of the Jews. Same to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, 40 years he was a businessman. The next 40 years he learned Torah, the next 40 years he taught Torah. And also Rabbi Akiva, 40 years he was an Aris. We know there's a machlok between Rashi and Tosfos. Was he really an Aris? Let's go according to Rashi. And 40 years he learned Torah, and 40 years he taught Torah. And he says over here, and then this spark of my soul that was originally in Moses, then went to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, then went to Rabbi Akiva, then was reincarnated in one of the great rabbis that came after the Talmud. They were called Rabbanan Sevorae, called Rav Achai. And he's actually written in the Gemara, Masechet Ketuvot, page 47, Parich Rav Achai. He was one of the Rabbanan Sevorae. So could you imagine, I'm saying too much information over here. This is not even where his soul, Ari didn't even start to explain where his soul is in Adam HaRishon. He's just starting to explain where your soul was before he came here. That spark. And only one of the sparks of his neshama, of his nefesh, was in Moshe, then Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, then Rabbi Akiva, then Abaye, and then it went into Rav Achai. So could you imagine the greatness of this neshama? Who will be Mashiach Tzidkeinu? If he was supposed to be Mashiach ben Yosef, who was supposed to be Mashiach ben David? May we be zocheh in our days. May we be zocheh to see him, to learn Torah from him. He says, and then after it came into a gilgul of Rav Achai, that spark from Moshe Rabbeinu, it went into a great rabbi of the Geonim period, the Gaonic period, called Rabbi Dostai Gaon. And then it went into Rabbi Aharon HaLevi. Some say he wrote Sefer HaChinuch, the famous Sefer HaChinuch. And then it went into Rav Zerachi HaLevi, Bala Maor, one of the great Rishonim. And then it went into the Rav Don Vidal de Tolos, the as we said, the Baal Magid Mishnah. And then it went inside Yeshua Soriano, and then into Avram, then into me. So could you imagine the gilgulim, this spark that was in Moshe Rabbeinu, how many gilgulim it went to until it went into Rabbi Haim Vital. And every gilgul was inside one of the leaders of the Jewish people. Baruch Hashem shezachinu to say even these names of these Tanaim and Amoraim, of these Rabbanan Sevorae. Some people don't even know what's Rabbanan Sevorae, Barminan. Zechor Yemot Olam Binu Shnot Dor Vador. Know your Jewish history. Know who you are. Without our past, we have no future. Vegam Amarli, and so he told me, the Ari tells Rabbi Haim Vital, that your neshama is very close to the Rambam. And that's why the Magid Mishneh, when that's who you were in one of your first gilgulim, wrote a commentary on the Rambam. So you see a person that writes or loves something to learn, he likes to learn a certain thing, it means, as we see from here, that his neshama has a shaykhut to that author, or else you wouldn't be learning that. And if you're connected to a certain human being, we see here a very simple thing, that it means that your neshama has a shaykhut with that person. And if you hate somebody or you're fighting with somebody, it also means you have a shaykhut to that person. And he also told me, the reason why inside of me right now it has the soul of Rabbi Elazar ben Shamo, who's one of the 5 students of Rabbi Akiva, is because he didn't learn all the Torah that Rabbi Akiva was supposed to teach him. We see this idea once again. And therefore, he's back inside of me to finish learning the Torah. And he says, I'm giving you a sign that you are the reincarnation of Rabbi Akiva, or you're the spark of Rabbi Akiva's neshama. Because every time you see a group of people, especially if it's dealing with death, chas v'shalom, you feel like fainting. Why do you have that feeling of fainting? It's like subconscious. That subconscious feeling comes from because you're from the Shorosh Neshama of Rabbi Akiva. Unbelievable. That means even the feelings that a person has to do subconsciously, not just when you were a child, but when you were in your previous reincarnation. And not only that, I'll tell you something that I once saw in the name of Rav Dov Ber Mezrich, the Magid Mezrich, a student of the Baal Shem Tov. When he was younger, he was a Malamed. He used to teach children. And they say about him that he wouldn't teach children, he wouldn't teach kids, unless he would take out from their brain the memory that they were in Har Sinai. Efo anachnu, Rabbi Isai. And don't worry, the prophet Yoel says, in the second to last chapter, I believe, that in the future, Hashem will spill His Ruach Nivuah on every human being, and we will reach even higher than this. Hashem, we will reach. If you want, only if you want. But if you think Mashiach's time is shashlik, ala esh, drinking alcohol all the time, going on the beach, petting lions, and you're in for a very crude awakening. That's not Mashiach at all. And he tells him, and the reason, so that's how he knows, and he says over here, another sign that you are a spark of Rabbi Akiva is because when you were younger, you really wanted to learn the book called Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, which was the Rebbe of Rabbi Akiva. So that means that your neshama had a connection to the soul of Rabbi Akiva, because you still want to learn from your Rebbe, Rabbi Eliezer Gadol, from his book. If you want to know this book, you go buy this book at any bookstore. It's also a great medrash, written by Rabbi Eliezer Gadol, with additions by later Tanaim and Amoraim. It's called Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer. I personally learned it. It's a fascinating sefer. I really recommend it. And he says because. The reason why Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, they needed so many gilgulim, they were such great Tanaim, how come that spark of there had to go later on into Abaye, inside Rabbi Achar, Rav Dostai? The reason why that spark had to keep on going, because don't forget, for 40 years of their life, they were Aris. And the Ari didn't reveal to Rav Haim Vital how Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was when he was a businessman, because he wasn't allowed to, because the Gemara doesn't say, but in Rabbi Akiva it does say. And in the first 40 years of his life, he used to say, who will give me a Talmid Chacham? And I would bite him like a donkey and break all of his bones. Another thing, even when he was starting to learn Torah, Rabbi Akiva once saw a met mitzvah, a dead guy lying on the ground. Even a Kohen Gadol has to bury him, and he has to be buried on that spot. And he didn't know the halacha, and he took him over his back, and he brought him to the graveyard. And when he went to Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua as Rebbeim in Yerushalayim, they told him, every step you took, you're chayav mita. So therefore, that caused that his neshama needed to go through more cleansing periods. Okay? And also Rabbi Akiva was Ben Gerim, so also that part of him needed to be cleansed later on in Abaye, through his mitzvot, and Rabbi Dostai, and Rabbi Achai, and in Don Vidal, the Magid Mishneh, and inside Rav Zerachia Levi, Rav Arona Levi, who was his nephew. And he says over here that especially Rabbi Akiva needed this extra boost. Why did Rabbi Akiva need this extra boost? Because the Zohar says in Parshat Vayikra, Ki ager, a convert. Now, I don't want, if there's any convert listening to this, to say, oh, what are you saying about converts? We have a mitzvah, double mitzvah in the Torah to love converts. And we do love converts. And we do everything our best to be mekarev, the true converts, I'm saying. And actually, I saw a specific thing in the book of Samuel today about, I'm not going to get into it right now, maybe next time, but it says in the Zohar, you should know, that a ger kashe la'abara zohama mineh afilu atlata darin. That a ger, it's hard for him to take off the zohama from his neshama, from being a goy when he was a goy, even until 3 generations. 3 generations. And Rabbi Akiva was a son of a ger. His father, Rabbi Yosef, was a ger. So, ne'echazu bo achitzonim, the impure forces, which basically means the lack of revelation of God, were connected to him. And he says that's why, because you are their reincarnations, and when they were younger, they had that avera of whatever they did. When you got married, they made a black magic on you. There's something called kshira. You could tie a groom when he's married, and he would. And Rabbi Haim Vital had I don't want to say the word in live over here in the video, because I always try to speak cleanly. But he had that avera of he was. The avera that deals with men only, and hamevin yavin, and he had that avera for about a couple of months. That's the same avera of Adam Harishon. For 130 years he was separated from his wife because they made black magic on him. So that's why that happened to him, because in his previous reincarnation he had that zohama from those previous Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. And he says another big avera, Rabbi Ari told Rabbi Haim Vital that he had in him, ki ha'ga'ava gdola. K'shayita bachur. When you were a young man, you had a lot of ga'ava, even though you wouldn't show it on the outside, but you would have ga'ava on the inside. In your inside, you always used to say that I'm a very big tzaddik, and that ga'ava inside of you caused you later on to have a lot of averot, especially with your wife, when they made that kishira on you, bar minan. And after that, the Ari Reincarnations gave him a lot of tikkunim to fast 84 fasts. And he says, because you didn't believe in the Zohar when you were the Magid Mishneh, that you have to always learn Zohar. No matter what, you're not allowed to miss learning Zohar every day. Besides from learning Kabbalah from me, says the Ari, you also have to just learn Zohar. And this is your ikar of your gilgul. That's why you're not allowed to ask too many questions, but you should learn simply, and then later on you're going to see the questions are going to fall by themselves. Because you're not allowed to go too deep, because since you didn't believe in it in the previous reincarnations, if you go too deep in your initial learning, it could cause you to have too many questions on your emunah and you'll leave it. Which is a very big lesson for people who start to learn now. If you see in the beginning you have so many questions, how could this be true? It's a sign that you have a lot of zohama in your neshama, and you shouldn't ask too many questions. Just learn b'tmimut. Then later on, you're going to see your mizdachech. You become more pure and pure in your emunah in Hashem, and you're going to see b'zrat Hashem yitbarach, the questions are going to start to fall like this. And he says, now I want to read this last part. I'm going to say actually two more over here. That I'll say it on the outside. And because they're very important. It has to deal with the Rabbi Haim Vital's gilgul. When he was the Magid Mishnah, then he was a man called Rabbi Yoshua Suriano, and then he was a boy named Avraham. The Ari Kadosh goes in depth to teach him that these three men did three averot. But before that, he tells him, we didn't want to tell him this, but then he told him that he were another guy called Rabbi Shaul Tirshi. And these three gilgulim of the Magid Mishneh, Rabbi Shaul Tirshi and Rabbi Yeshua Surianu, the three main averot, and because of that you have to be very careful from these three things. Number one, the Magid Mishneh, it says over here, I want to tell you exactly what it says over here. When he was a young man, I feel like bad to tell you guys, because many of you guys don't learn poskim deep, maybe, or maybe you do. Sorry if you do, and I said that, but the Magid Mishnah is, there isn't a day in the world that his name isn't mentioned maybe 1,000,000 times by people learning Torah. So the Magid Mishneh, when he was younger, he made a sin in Nida by mistake. And that's why Rabbi Haim Vital, when he got married, he also had this test of Nida. And he fell. And because he fell and he didn't fix the sin of the Magid Mishneh, he fell in the avon of Nida, and he fell in another avon that I don't want to say because of cleanliness reasons. You have to fast. You will only live slicha for 44 years because of karet. He told him. And later on, the Chaim Vital fixed this by fasting for 44 days. So we see that the avonot that we have in our reincarnation right now is only because we had these tests before and we failed. If you have a test now, a certain test, whether it be honoring your parents, Nida, Shabbat, it's only because we failed in those scenarios in the past reincarnation. You have to redo them. I just gave you a key. You have to redo them. And not only that, one time the Magid Mishneh was matir in Eshet Ish, a married woman, that she didn't know where her husband was, and the Magid Mishneh was matir her. He looked in her din and he said, you're free to get remarried, and he made a mistake. And the same situation happened with Rabbi Haim Vital when he was learning with his Rebbe, Rav Moshe Al-Sheikh, the Al-Sheikh HaKadosh. They were matir and Eshet Ish mistakenly. So we see the same scenario comes again. And he said, the reason why Rabbi Yoshua Suriano had to come back in a gilgul because he used to eat fat. There are certain fats of the animal that you're not allowed to eat. Chelev, Russians eat this a lot. Certain part of the animal, to take them out, we need to do nikur. Sometimes they just cut off the whole part of the animal just not to deal with it. It says Isur D'Oraita, it's like drinking blood. And this Rabbi Yeshua Suryani used to eat it b'mezid, on purpose. And because of that, he says, in this reincarnation, every time you slaughter an animal, you're very careful to cut off the whole chelev, even with meat. Because you feel that you did that aveira in such a bad way in a previous reincarnation, you totally want to cut it off. So if you hate something in this reincarnation, it might be a sign that you did do that before, and it left such a bad impression on you that you want to stay away from it a lot. Or it could also mean that you overcame it. It could be many different reasons. And he says also, this Rabbi Shaul Tirishti, he was a mohel and he killed a child by mistake. He wasn't such a good mohel and he killed a child by mistake. And he says, your tikkun, the Ari tells the Rabbi Haim Vital, is not to use a knife. You should not be a mohel, except for your own son. You should not be a mohel because you by mistake killed somebody, a child, when you were Rabbi Shaul Tirishti. In that gilgul, your tikkun is in this gilgul not to do any brit milahs. And we can see that too. A person is very scared to do a brit milah. It could be because he went through a certain traumatic event in his previous gilgul. And he says to him, that's why also in this gilgul, you're very careful not to be a moel and a shochet subconsciously. It's because of these two reasons. And also, you should be very careful. And the reason that boy Avram died when he was 14, because since Rabbi Yeshua Suriano used to eat this fat on purpose, mezid, it's karet. Eating fats is karet. Not all fats, specific ones. Ask your rabbi. And it's isur karet. That's why when he came back as the boy Avraham, he died very young. So there's a lot to speak over here about his gilgul, but I wanted to just talk about these parts. And B'ezrat Hashem Yitbarach in our next shiur, because the next parts over here, the Ari tells him which part of him he's part of Adam HaRishon, how he's the gilgul of Cain, the ekev of the Katef HaSemali, and so on and so forth. Really, Dvarim HaMavhilim Et HaRa'ayon, person who learns Torah Tasot could really enjoy this. So I just want to summarize. We see the greatness of Rabbi Haim Vital's neshama, but also we see that he was metaken a lot of neshamot. And every one of us could be really in this situation. We just have to believe in ourselves, like I said in my previous shiur. And the schut that we're learning, the greatest of Chaim Vital, he was metaken Rabbi Akir, Rabbi Chaim Zakai, and all these tzaddikim. And even the Magid Mishnah, he was metaken. And so on and so forth. May his zechut be magen aleinu, and may we be zocheh, finally, to the Biyat HaGoel, B'merav Yameinu, Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen ve'amen. Thank you for watching.